لا شريك له وأن محمدا الله هو لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله الله هو
Welcome all, mashallah. Jazakumullah khair all for coming, and may Allah reward you. Jazakumullah khair. So, inshallah, we're going to start. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah, all praises be to Allah, and peace and blessings be upon our Prophet Muhammad, his family, and his companions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings be upon you all. Today we are continuing our series of Aqidah. Aqidah means the doctrine of Islam. And we started with Tawheed, that means the oneness of Allah. We talked a little bit about Tawheed al-Uluhiyya wa Rububiyyah, the Tawheed of the monotheism of lordship and worship. We talked about Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat, the names and the attributes of Allah. We talked about how we can come closer to Allah and invoke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Last time we were talking about shirk, that means polytheism, and now we are talking about kufr. And the last thing I asked you guys, what is the difference between kufr and shirk? Kufr and shirk. What is the difference? Who remember what we had last time? Who can tell me? Who remembers the difference between kufr and shirk? Inshallah. Okay, so shirk means polytheism. That means to associate other gods with Allah. And it doesn't mean just polytheism, like literally bringing a statue and talking about and worshipping. Yes, Sister Fatima, go ahead. I see you on mute. You wanted to say something?
أو أحكي لك الفرق بين الكفر والشرك.
Yes, تفضلي.
الكفر هو نكران وجود الله سبحانه وتعالى، أما الشرك فهو أن تشرك مع الله إلها آخر أو معبودا آخر.
Okay. So she's saying it in Arabic, and she say that kufr, it means to shirk, it means to associate other gods with him, and kufr, it means to deny Allah by disobeying him, Now you understand now. So every shirk is kufr, but not every kufr is shirk, right? So you see the kufr has probably a bigger circle, because not everyone who is disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually committing polytheism, not necessarily, right? But polytheism also is also more dangerous than kufr, because it guarantees you to take you to hellfire. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from hellfire. Also, shirk doesn't only mean to bring like a statue and worship the statue. Shirk, it could be also that you associate other things with Allah, that you love it more than Allah. Let's say money, children, husband, life, my body, for example, that I'm spending too much time taking care of my body and my appearance than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Astaghfirullah, right? This is shirk. This is where it becomes shirk. And shirk, there is a shirk akbar, that means a major shirk, and there is a shirk asghar, a minor shirk. Shirk al-akbar, it is like clearly to associate other gods with Allah, and you announce this as a god for you. Let's say Jesus, or let's say the saints, or let's say the Buddha, or whatever it is. And then there is a shirk al-asghar, which is like not necessarily that you are announcing this as a god, but you love it more than God. And this does not guarantee you that you go into Jannah. All right? Now the kufr, we have the same thing, and we're going to talk about kufr. Kufr, that means denying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are different types of kufr that I'm going to be talking about right now. Kafara comes from or kufr, it comes from the root word in Arabic, kafara. And like it literally means, like in English, cover. You know, actually cover comes from the Arabic word kafar. Kafar and cover. So cover, it means to cover the truth, to conceal the truth, and only show what is, you know. So I'm going to give you an example that I see a lot online. Okay. And I'm not telling this as a kafir, as an infidel, that she's outside of the fold of Islam, but she's denying something. So for example, I see about a sister that she's asking about hijab, right? So she comes to her, another sister, tells her, well, it's okay if you're not wearing hijab. You know, I don't wear hijab. I wear, you know, just a scarf around my neck, and I cover, and I am modest, you know, like this, right? And when she tells her, well, when I come and tell her, well, you need to wear the hijab, is an obligatory, she gets so arrogant, and she says that I am so strict, and I am so, you know, that I am so rude, and all these things, right? Subhanallah. Now, if she wants to take, if she doesn't want to take the nasiha, that's up to her, but not to deny. Like she can say, yes, you're right, sister, hijab is fard, and may Allah guide me to it, but I'm not ready. That's, you know, that's a whole different attitude. But to come and say, no, sister, who told you this, and this, and you know, it's not going to take me to hellfire if I'm not going to wear the hijab. No. If you deny and you are arrogant about it, Allah will actually show you and will take you to hellfire. I'm not saying about you, you know, as a person, but you know, things like that. So sometimes we don't really follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like we're supposed to, you know, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most forgiving, that's right, but also He is severe in His punishment. So we're not supposed, like we're supposed to feel bad that we're not really, you know, following the right, the right thing. And instead of denying and being arrogant and saying that I'm rude, or this is not your business, or something like that, she should be more a little bit humble, or that lady is supposed to be more humble and say, okay, you know what, maybe she's right, and I'm going to take my time. I will reach to that level in one time, but not to be like denying completely and say, no, this is my business, and don't, and so on. Because there is an ayah says in the Quran that I want to show it to you, that you come and give some people some advice and they become so. Now I understand, like I try to not to be disrespectful to her, and I try not to really get into other people's business, but when I see something like publicly announcing that it is okay to wear hijab, to not wearing hijab, or publicly announcing that it is okay to do haram thing, you know, I have to speak up. You know, I'm not here talking about some, like I'm coming to her and telling her, hey, why you're not wearing hijab? That's up to her. This is her business. But no, I'm talking about this lady is like announcing that it is okay not to wear hijab. It is okay to go and celebrate Christmas. It is okay to do this and that. They're like basically watering down the religion. And unfortunately, she's teaching this in on Facebook or on the social media, like it is something normal, without giving any proofs or dalil from the Quran or anything like that. This is what I'm talking about. And if someone is doing something publicly, I have to stop them publicly. I can't just take them on the side. And even if you take them on the side, they're not going to listen anyway. So let me show you this ayah. Okay, it says over here in the ayah, it says over here that أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذا قيل له اتق الله أخذته العزة بالإثم فحسبه جهنم ولبئس المهاد. And when it is said to him, fear Allah, like, you know, I'm coming to this sister and tell her, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what you're doing is wrong. Pride in the sin takes hold of him. Sufficient for him is hellfire, and how wretched is the resting place. So I'm telling you, it's very dangerous for someone on social media to come and talk about their personal experience as it is the right thing to do. Sorry, where's that? Sorry. Yeah. So it is very dangerous when someone comes and do something and say, oh, it is okay to do this, as it is something okay, and it's like, you know, as it is something halal to do. Okay. Like if they're doing something wrong and they're talking about their personal experience as they're not wearing the hijab or anything like that, that's up to them. But don't say, oh, it's okay, sister, go ahead and do like me, for example. Okay? Because she's not a perfect person and she's not really following Islam, and she's basically dragging someone like a blind, what leading a blind, right? Subhanallah. Okay, so we have different types of kufr. We have a major kufr, just like shirk, and we have a minor kufr. The major kufr are the ones that they are denying, okay? Like, for example, denying one of the 6 pillars of Islam. So they say, I believe in Allah, I believe in the angels, I believe in the prophets of Allah, I believe in the in the books, but I don't believe in the day of judgment. Or I don't believe in destiny. I don't believe that Allah actually, knows our destiny. I supposed to be making my destiny, okay? Or Allah does not interfere at all in my life. So she's denying one of the pillars of Iman, one of the articles of faith, and if someone does deny one of those, like for example, I've seen some sisters that they become to Islam and they don't have any knowledge of Islam. They just say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna muhammadan rasulullah, and then I ask her, okay, what do you think of Jesus? What do you believe in Jesus? Oh, he's the son of God. I worship him, because she has no idea who Jesus is in Islam, right? So she still denied one of the pillars of Iman, and one of the pillars is to believe in all the messengers, including Jesus and Muhammad, alayhim salatu wassalam, right? We're not so, or someone like, let's say that I believe, like there is someone who now became a Jehovah Witness. I asked her, she was so close to Islam, and she said, "You know what? I believe in all the 6 articles except the day of judgment. I don't believe in hellfire and heaven." I'm like, "What, really?" She said, "Yeah, I don't believe in that." I said, "What do you believe in?" And she said, "I don't know. I believe maybe in reincarnation or that, but I don't think that Allah will punish everybody like this in the hell in hellfire. I think that we will have the chance to come and all go to heaven." That's what she said. That she's so optimistic, mashallah. So may Allah guide her, right? So yeah, I mean, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. And his by the way, his mercy surpasses his anger. That's what a Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. And it is a hadith Qudsi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speak of himself that rahmati sabaqat ghadabi. That means my mercy has surpasses my anger. But also that doesn't mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not severe in punishment for those ones that they are wicked, right? Denying the ayahs or hadith, like the Quranist, they say, you know what? I don't want to follow the hadith. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just going to follow the Quran. Because, well, when I became Muslim by reading the Quran, not the hadith. So the hadith is not right. I'm denying all that. And I've seen many people like this, whether they are converts or non-converts. Right now, there is a big campaign in the Arab world where people are just like following the Quranists, the modern Islam, the Quranists, and they don't follow the Sunnah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prevent us from this. So this is actually kufr akbar. This is a major kufr, because you are denying Allah's ayah where it says that, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أطيعوا الله وأطيعوني. That means like, obey Allah and obey me. Say, O Muhammad. So we should also obey Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not only in the Quran, but also with his Sunnah, following his footsteps, right? Denying the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about himself that he has a face. That in the day of judgment, we're going to be able to see the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the most beautiful view. Or that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a hand or eye. Some people will come say, no, this is just a metaphoric. There's no face for Allah. There's no hand for Allah. So they disable Allah's, Allah's attributes and names, right? Attributes. Those are attributes. So in this case, we have to stop them and say, no, this is wrong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he says that he has a hand, that means he has a hand. Now, how does it look like? We're not supposed to ask these questions, okay? How does he use his hand? This is not us to ask these questions. But we know what is hand, okay? But how does it look like? Everything that you think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is different, right? So be careful about these denying about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are just examples. Some also of the kufr akbar, some of the also, you see these examples, by the way, in real life, where when someone agreeing with other religions say, well, Christians, Muslims, and Jews are all Abrahamic religions. We all believe in one God. We all have the same belief system. Okay, even the Hindus, if you go back to their old books, or the Taoists, they talk about the center of the universe, and I'm sure, or like the higher power, and it talks about Allah, and I'm sure that we're all the same. So all the Christians, they're going to heaven, all the Hindus are going to heaven, or all these people that they're going to, all the Jews are going to heaven. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna dina inda Allah al-Islam. That the religion for Allah is Islam. All the other religions are handmade. It's not from Allah. Okay, Allah, that people with their effort probably did, made up those religions. Maybe that they were, originally Muslims, but then they drifted away and they made it a whole different religion, like Christianity, for example, or Judaism, right? It was Muslim first. It was Islam first. It was monotheism. Islam, to submit to only one God. But then after that, by time, they start adding things to religion and drifting away until it became a whole different religion, right? So no, we're not supposed to be saying, okay, I belong to the Christians, I belong to the Jews, I belong, that's called like pantheism, by the way, in religion, ta'addudiyya, okay? And it is actually haram in Islam. We're not supposed to say, okay, we belong to this religion. No, we belong to Muslims, and we should be proud Muslims as well. Okay, some people, they do that because they're shy. They don't want to say that they're Muslims, and they want to come close to the other religions or to the other people groups, and they say, well, we're all the same. No, we're not all the same. We respect them as people, but we don't believe in their religion. Okay, agreeing on some of the practices that other peoples do, like other religions do. Okay, so for example, let's say that Christians believe in when you, or like in the saints. Okay, so you ask them, why you are worshiping the saints? Why are you asking the saints? They say, well, I'm asking the saints because that makes me closer to Allah. That's what the pagans also used to do back then at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to ask them, like, who created you? They say, Allah. They say, okay, why are you worshiping these idols? We were not worshiping them because we worship them. We worship them because they're making us close to Allah. That's what the pagans do. So, okay, what is the difference between this and the ones that they worship saints, right? And so this is that's a major kufr. That's a major sin. And so, people should be so careful on what they say to other religions or about other religions, okay? We respect them as people. We love them. We ask Allah to guide them. We always wish for them the best, but we don't agree with what they believe. There is a big difference, right? Some also major kufr is when, as I said, making the haram halal. Okay, like alcohol. Some people, they say, oh well, the Quran only mentioned khamr, which is wine. Okay, well, the other type of alcohol, like for example beer and all these things, this is not khamr. That's a whole different name. That's like a beer or something. So let's drink it. Okay, it's haram. Khamr here, it means alcohol. Like anything that it is made of alcohol, that when you drink it or when someone drink it, will make the mind foggy and and so on. Drugs. They say, well, the Quran doesn't say about the drugs. He's here? Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that. My husband's supposed to be coming from out of town. Drugs, okay? Some people, they say, well, marijuana is not really a drug. It's just a plant, right? You hear this a lot, right? It's just a plant. It doesn't make you addicted. Have you heard about this? I'm sure you did, right? So, well, anything that makes a person his mind is foggy and cannot think clearly and make him dizzy and drugged? Yes, it is drug. Don't tell me, man. Okay. Adultery. They say, well, like, for example, I've spoken to some Christians about adultery, and they say, well, it is not haram to have a boyfriend or girlfriend as long as you're not married. Okay. Where did you get that from? This is actually fornication. It's haram anyway, to have any like, intimacy with the other sex without marriage, with outside of the wedlock, that's all haram. Okay. So, making the haram halal, these things, LGBT, I misplaced. Okay. LGBTQA, right? Now I have a whole lecture about this. You can go back to my YouTube and we can talk about this. Acting upon the LG, lesbian, gay, is haram. It's totally haram. Acting upon it with the same sex. I mean, it is haram for two people who are heterosexual to act upon it. How about also the ones that they are the same sex, right? It's the same thing. Like this rule actually will apply to this to the same people group. Okay. So there is also other. Now we have other kufr, which is the minor kufr, and the minor kufr is not. It's not really doesn't really necessarily take you to hellfire, but it could lead to hellfire. Okay, and one of them is denying by doubting too much. Okay, for example, the authenticity of the Quran. Right. So they say, so some people, they try to compare the Quran with the Bible. Now, I don't know if you've heard my lecture a week ago talking about the authenticity of the Bible and how I showed that the Bible is all full of contradictions, and all the manuscripts are all lost, and many of the manuscripts, they have to match it and patch it up together in order to make a book or a or a book from the books of the Bible and things like that. However, the Quran, when it was revealed and people, memorized it right away. And when it was collected and there was in each ayah that it was written in that Quran, or it was put in that Quran, there was at least 2 witnesses that they memorized the whole Quran. Okay, at least 2 witnesses that they had to approve on these ayahs, and they put it together. Now, some Islamophobe will try to make people doubt, and it's okay to ask questions, to verify, to clarify. But then after that, to deny and say, you know what? No, I don't believe the Quran is authentic. I think that these are all just collection of memorizations and all of these. No, you have to study the history and see how the Quran was collected. The Quran first was collected by, after, of course, the Prophet ﷺ, and then Abu Bakr. It was at the time of Abu Bakr. It hasn't been a year or 2 years after the Prophet ﷺ died when it was all collected. However, the Bible, it took hundreds of years, like after even like some of the book was collected as a Bible in the 15th century, in the 15th, like 1,500 years after Jesus. So you see, and also until now we have the Quran memorized from cover to cover, from the time of Abu Bakr, from the time of the Prophet ﷺ, until now. And even if we take all the Bibles and we just throw them in the sea, just like what's his name? He said that, may Allah give him mercy. One of the great scholars, he said, he's a modern scholar. He said, if you take all the Bibles and you just throw it in the sea, if you take all the Qur'ans and you throw it in the sea, and you tell the Christians, come up with write the Bible again, and you come to the Muslims and you tell them, come and write the Quran again. Okay, subhanallah. You see, all the Muslims, we have millions of Muslims who study and who memorize the Quran from cover to cover with no mistake. But the Christians, they will come to you, which version that you want? And you don't see anyone actually memorize the whole Bible, right? Okay, some people, they doubt the existence of jinn. They say, oh, this is just a bogus thing. There's nothing called jinn. Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the unseen world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the angels and the angels is one of the articles of faith. And Allah created the jinn, and He mentions it in the Quran. There's actually a whole surah called Al-Jinn, right? We don't see them, but they see us. So that doesn't mean that they don't exist. Yes, we don't interact with them. They don't interact with us. They have their own world. We have our own world, but they exist. Okay? The effect of the evil eye. They say, oh, this is all just, bogus. There's nothing called evil eye. You're just taking. Yeah, some people, they invest so much time into it and they become so anxious and they have that anxiety that everything hits them is an evil eye. Everything happened to them is the evil eye. No, this is haram. They're not supposed to have, this. They're supposed to have tawakkul. But some people, they just deny it completely. And the Prophet ﷺ said that evil eye is haqq. It is actually a right. Okay. Inheritance, they say, well, why do I have to, why is the woman's inheritance is, let's say, less than a man? Okay, no, I'm gonna go with the American style or the American way, and I'm gonna write the inheritance and make everybody exactly the same, not like the Sharia or like the Islamic law. Okay, these just doubts. If you deny them, and you make these doubts as it is something default in your belief, then it becomes a major sin. Okay, but if you just have questions and you have these doubts, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance and look for the answers. And if you don't find the answers, that doesn't mean that there is no answer. It's just that you don't know the answer, or that there is an answer but you don't know it. Okay, now the second one is al-istikbar, being arrogant. Al-istikbar, that when you give a nasiha to someone, or they deny it and they say, you know what, that doesn't make any sense. No, I'm not going to listen to this. For example, as I said about the hijab, about praying, they say, well, I don't want to be praying like the 5 prayers. I'm just gonna go and I'm spiritual. I still have my connection with Allah, but that doesn't mean that I'm not a Muslim, right? Actually, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that, the first thing the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be asked is the salah. That is the first thing. Okay. And it says also in other hadith that what makes us different than other religions is the salah. So salah, the 5 prayers, is important. Yes, we have the dua where you just close your eyes or you just sit and focus and talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from your heart to Allah, and make dua and make tasbih. Yeah, we have this. We have all these worships. Okay, but the obligatory prayer is the salah, the 5 prayers, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha. These are very important, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us for it. And let me ask you something, sisters. What is the difference between fard and sunnah? ما هو الفرق بين الفرض والسنة? The dua and all these things are maybe sunnah, but the salah is fard. And so that's why we say salah is fard. But what is the difference between salah and sunnah? Some people, they don't know the difference. You can type it up, or you can unmute yourself and speak.
Assalamualaikum.
Yes, sister. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So sunnah is something that we do just like extra, and then it's like obligatory that you have or you must do.
Right. Very good. So fard is obligatory, and sunnah that it is an optional, right? Voluntarily. I see someone. Okay, Neptina say sunnah is extra. MashaAllah. Very good. Yeah. Yeah, very good answers. Yes. Anybody else has anything else? Okay, so the major difference is that all the major similarities, that if you both do the sunnah and the fard, you both get you get rewarded for both of them. Allah will reward you for the sunnah, and Allah will reward you for the fard. But if you don't do it, this is where it comes the difference. The sunnah, if you don't do it, Allah will not hold you accountable for it. Allah will not ask you why you didn't do it. But the fard, if you don't do it, then Allah will punish you for it. There's the consequences for it. Okay? And so the sunnah, you can do sunnah and Allah will reward you and so on. And some people, they try to replace the sunnah with the fard. They say, I'm going to just make dua and I'm not going to do the prayers. Okay? Yeah, but if you don't do the prayers, you get punishment from Allah. You know, because the salah is the most important. It's more important. It is a fard. It is an obligatory. You have to do it. But the sunnah, you don't have to do it. You know, we always strive for the reward, but do the reward that it is a bigger reward, which is the fard. Then do the sunnah. Okay, the sunnah is just extra and voluntarily things to do to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But do the minimum. The minimum is the fard. The fard. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. So that's the difference. Sorry, I have my cold. Okay, there is also kufr as-sab wal istihza. That means like istihza, means mocking. Some people, they call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or like they come up with names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't come up with these names. So he says, they say, oh, Allah is a funny man, or like he has a sense of humor. Astaghfirullah. So they're mocking Allah. Astaghfirullah al-azim, right? Some people, they mock or they literally curse Allah, and I've seen that in the Arab world. Astaghfirullah al-azim, especially like in the Middle East, when they get so angry. Like some people, when they get so angry, they literally say like words like yil'an Allah, astaghfirullah, like curse Allah, astaghfirullah. Like they do really curse Allah. And this is haram. Even if someone is so angry, they should not be making any cursing to Allah. Okay? This is haram. And this actually takes them automatically outside of the fold of Islam. And they have to repent and make shahada again. Okay? Some people, they make mocking of like polygyny, which is polygamy, marrying, or the historical events that happen in the history in Islam or in the Quran or something like this. So they say, what? How could Noah, for example, Nuh, be in a belly of the whale for like 70 days or for 3 days? This is crazy. That's not sense. That's insane. Where did he live in? He should be dead when the whale came and ate him, right? When he swallowed him. Some people, they make like, mocking or anything like things like that. They mock the stories of the Quran, right? Or like Juj and Majuj, they call them like the zombies. Astaghfirullah. No, Juj and Majuj is not zombies. They're regular people. Zombies, according to the myth or to the TV show Walking Dead, they're actually dead humans that they have no conscience, nothing. And something infect them and make them like zombies. So they're two different things. Okay, so we're not supposed to make mocking or sab means like mocking or cursing or anything like that. Okay, and all of these, what I'm saying, are minor. They're not major. But some people, they do it just like without even thinking about it or without really having any awareness that what they're doing is wrong, right? If they don't know, but after they know, they should actually ask Allah for forgiveness and they should repent and not do it again. Okay. Kufr al-bughd, disgusted. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ كَرِهُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأَحْبَطَ أَعْمَالَهُمْ. That is because they disliked what Allah revealed, so He rendered worthless their deeds. Okay, so some people, they say, well, I hate polygamy. You should not be hating it. Okay, now if you don't want it to happen to you, that's something different. But for other people, it could be a norm, like in some remote villages in the Middle East or something like that. Okay, or in Africa or in India, some people, they practice the polygamy, right? But being disgusted of it and saying there's no way I can accept that. No, this is haram. Okay. Now, especially here in the West, because we always think that if the man marry another woman, that he is cheating on the first one. Like, you know, if I am of the first wife and I'm a convert, because I come from this background or this the Western, where we know that if a person has more than one person, you know, in his life, that means he is actually cheating on one of them, because that's how the West taught us. That's the mentality of the West. That's how they program our mind. But if it's in the halal and the first wife know about it, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted, it's not a sunnah, by the way, and it's not an obligatory. Polygamy is not an obligatory and not a sunnah either. It is a permitted thing, okay, in some circumstances, right? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then and the man should discuss that with the first wife, and then the first wife has the right either to stay and accept it or leave, okay? But not to be disgusted of it and, you know, and raise problems about it and all these things, you know, and say that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrong, you know, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought this ayah and it is wrong, and deny it and so on. So we should be careful about how we treat Allah's, you know, Allah's commands and things like that. Okay. So we have the, as I said, discussed it as denying, and it could take you outside of the fold of Islam, expels the person from Islam, and dooms him to the hellfire forever if he denies, if he dies upon it, or that the person is still a Muslim, but he would be a sinner. Okay, depend of course on the, you know, and same thing also with the i'rad. You know, we have refusing to hear the words of Allah. We have refusing to submit to the commands of Allah. And maybe I heard you, okay, I believe it, but I will not submit. Refusing to do the obligatory deeds after saying the shahada, like the salah, like the fasting of Ramadan and all these things. So yeah. And we have also kufr al-bught. As I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولَ فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْكَافِرِينَ. Say, obey Allah and the Messenger, but if they turn away, then indeed Allah does not like the disbelievers. Okay. And then we have the minor kufr, as I said. Whatever the Quran or Sunnah calls is a kufr, disbelief, deny, doesn't take the person outside of the fold. Because many people, like I've seen many of those very strict people, like if someone did a small mistake, let's say that this woman does not pray properly, she say, oh, she's a kafir, she's a kafir. So they start like pointing fingers. That's a kafir, that's a kafir. He's a disbeliever, he's going to hellfire, that's a disbeliever. So on. No, this is haram. We're not supposed to do that. Okay. Yeah. If someone actually denies or someone actually, you know, that's a kafir for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who say that if they are kafir or not. He is the just. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Maybe also that this girl doesn't wear a hijab for some reason, or that she doesn't fast because she has a medical problem or something like this. So we shouldn't actually the ones, you know, pointing fingers. Oh, he's a disbeliever, he's an infidel, he's a kafir. You know, that's not our business to do that, right? But I'm just saying, like, what really makes for you to be careful, to pay attention, not to be, you know, project this on other people. You should project this on yourself and ponder upon, like, how am I actually obeying Allah? How am I actually following Islam? Am I following it in the right way or not? So this lecture, sister, is for you, not for you to project it on other people and start pointing fingers, okay? So Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, among my people, there are 4 characteristics belonging to pre-Islamic period, like Jahiliyyah. Those people that they deny, okay? Although they're Muslims, by the way. They are Muslims, but they don't follow Islam in the right way because they're following these 4 characteristics that they still are, they're still embedded in themselves until now. And how many times, like even us as reverts, we have these bad habits that from before Islam, pre-Islam. And this is something that we have to work upon ourselves to be better. Okay, what are these things? Which they do not abandon with a boasting of high rank, like they're arrogant, like they say, okay, we are um, from the tribe this and this name. Okay, so we are kings of these tribes. We are the chiefs of these tribes. Okay, so arrogance of the tribes, right? Reviling other people's genealogies. So, for example, let's say a Palestinian, or or let's say Jordanian, because I'm from Jordan, and I've seen this before, that this woman that she wants to marry, and they won't marry her off to an African, for example, because he's African, he's from a different lineage, right? That's haram. That's actually the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Utrukuha fa innaha muntira." Leave this because it is stinky. It's disgusting. Okay. So some people, they do this, like, oh, I will never let my daughter marry to an African man. I will never do this, because they are from a whole different culture. I will not eat the Indian food. It's too spicy and it's so disgusting. Astaghfirullah. I love Indian food, by the way. I'm just saying that some people, they do that, right? And this is actually all from the minor kufr. That means like you are not accepting and you think that you are better than other people. Okay. Reviling the other people's genealogies, seeking rain by stars. Okay. Some people that they still go to what do you call them? The psychs, they call them, where they go and they read a palm or they want to see. This is actually haram. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, whoever go to a soothsayer or to a fortune teller and they believe in it and they believe what the fortune teller tells them, then Allah will not accept their salah for 40 days. Okay. So all these things that some people, they still carry until now, some of those people, and they should get rid of this and they should work on themselves. And then also wailing. That means like when a person go to we have this in our country when someone dies, so the family would go and hire wailers, hire them. They pay them money, so they just can sit and just cry loudly and start crying loudly, and they start, telling about the person how good he was and all these things. That's haram in Islam, by the way. And this is considered a minor kufr. Okay. Yeah, I know this is crazy here, but in Arab countries, they do stuff like this, crazy stuff like this. Okay. Hypocrisy. Okay, what is hypocrisy? Is showing the belief and hiding the disbelief. The Prophet ﷺ had some hypocrite that they lived in Medina, and the Prophet ﷺ, he knew about them. Okay, but he never exposed them. Right? Even one time, Umar ibn Khattab, and he said, this is a hypocrite man. Let me go and kill him. Let me go and chop his head. And he said, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, do you want the other people to say that Muhammad is killing his friends, his companions? So if the Prophet ﷺ was so modest that he did not actually expose these hypocrite, then how about us? We should not say about someone is hypocrite. Okay? And we should not say about anyone is a kafir if he's a Muslim and you see him come into the masjid and pray and all these things. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said there are two people that they call each other a kafir, like an A and B. A is calling B a kafir and B is calling A a kafir, except that one of them is a real kafir, will go to hellfire. So be careful about you say about someone else is a kafir. Okay. And so we have kufr also i'tiqadi, major in aqidah. That means that they are hypocrite about the aqidah. So they believe in something and they show that they believe in Islam, but they are not believing in Islam. Like inside themselves, they still believe in Jesus as a God. They still believe in the reincarnation and all these things. These are major hypocrisy. And there is also the minor hypocrisy. And every one of us has this minor hypocrisy, even me. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cleanse my heart and your hearts from any hypocrisy. Like many times we do something and then for the sake of Allah, but then after that, our intention in the middle, like it changes. So we start seeing like what people think, or like, that we're doing it so I can make that person happy or something like this. And we forget that we actually, when we started our intention, it was only for Allah, right? It happens all the time. So hypocrisy, the minor hypocrisy. So be careful about this. Jazakumullah khair. So any questions so far? Of course, like the ones that they do major hypocrisy in Aqidah, those are actually in the lowest pit of the hellfire. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إن المنافقين في الدرك الأسفل من النار ولن تجد لهم نصيرا. Indeed, the hypocrites will be in the lowest depths of the fire, and never will you find for them a helper. Right? Now, this is probably my last. I don't want to go even more. Khalas, this is my last one. It says over here, the Prophet ﷺ, he actually talked about the minor hypocrisy. Okay, and these hypocrites, they don't really take you outside of those like minor ones. And I'm sure that some of us actually go like we have this type of hypocrisy. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cleanse us from the hypocrisy and make our heart to be pure, and that what we do, whatever is in our intention, in our heart, that we actually do it also in, not to show two-faced. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there are 3 signs of hypocrites. Okay, when he speaks, he tells lies. A person who would like to impress the other person in front of them, so they start telling lies. Sometimes they spice it up, right? So they say extra things that it didn't happen, just to say, like, for the other person to say, wow, really, that happened to you? You told her that? Wow, you're such a brave person, or something like this, right? So when he speaks, he tells lies. And this is not supposed to happen with us. We're supposed to be truthful in what we say. When he makes a promise, he breaks it all the time. Now, if someone break the promise because something happened and it obliged them not to, let's say, come to the event or to fulfill the promise, that's okay. And they should actually communicate with that person, like apologizing and telling them why they could not fulfill the promise. But there are some people that they promise all the time and they don't fulfill the promises. So for example, the mothers to their children, right? We promise them, oh, I'm gonna buy you this gift or this toy if you do something for me, or if you get like really good grades. And the person get that good grade, but then after that we don't fulfill, right? So we should fulfill our promises. So be careful in what you promise. Before you promise, think before you promise, and see, can you really actually do the promise or not? Okay. Some people, they make those huge promises, like, if I marry you, I'm going to bring you a house and a car, and, I'm going to bring you the stars of the universe to you, and all these things, right? And I've seen it a lot where women actually fall onto these things. And so the man marry her just because he wants to get to her, and then he leaves her and he does not fulfill the promise. Subhanallah, right? Those are like pure hypocrites. And also he breaks it. So, and when he is entrusted, he betrays a trust. So someone give a secret to someone and tell them, don't tell anyone. This is just between me and you. Right? We say these people who go and tell everybody else, like after you tell them, don't go and tell anybody, like, it's like you're putting your secret in a well. When you say something in a well, there is an echo comes out, right? If you say something like in an empty room, right, and you say something and then there is an echo. So it's like those are like echoes, right? You say something to them and they echo it to other people. They say it to all other people, right? That's also a sign of hypocrisy. So if someone entrusts you to something, give you money, keep that money and don't use it for anything else unless if you ask them to do so that. Okay, if someone give you a secret, if someone give you something to keep it for them, keep it for them if you can, right? And always have a good communication with those people. So you don't look like you're a hypocrite if you don't do it, right? So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cleanse our hearts and keep us always on the right path. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us good believers. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and to guide us all. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to always keep us in the right path and to always, be monotheists and witnessing that there is no la ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah, and to make us die on La ilaha illallah, to make us die on the truth. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us all together and bring our hearts together. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cleanse our hearts from nifaq wa riya, from the hypocrisy and from showing off and bigotry. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take the arrogance out of our hearts and, and give us humility. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khair. Wa barakallah feekum. Anybody has any question, inshallah? Anyone has any question? I'm sorry, my voice is, I'm having this cold. I can't get rid of it. SubhanAllah. Make dua for me and for my husband. We're going to be moving by the end of the month, inshallah, in 2 weeks.
You should drink some vitamin C, sister.
Yeah, I do. I drink also the black seed, honey. I do all that, subhanallah. So just make dua for me. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feekum. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم. If I say something right, then it's from Allah. If I say something wrong, then it is from myself, and I ask Allah for forgiveness. سبحانك الله وبحمده أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. And I have my cat here saying hello to you. This is Haloum. Say Haloumi, say hi. And he's saying, I love you for the sake of Allah. Jazakallah khair all for coming. May Allah reward you. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa
Alaikum.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam, sister.